This conference will now.
How bad do I sound? This is a different headset.
Oh, it sounds great.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Now I just need to get me a better camera because this laptop camera sucks.
Yeah, I was thinking about getting a better one, but I don't think you guys need 4K, on my ugly mug. So I'm just going to leave the old one there. So,
Hey, Brian.
hey, man, how's it going?
You wouldn't believe if I told you.
Tell me. I want to hear all about it.
I got a notification my laser will be here today.
Okay.
When they open the door, guess what I have?
What?
1,000 pounds of glass tiles with my name on it.
Glass tiles.
Yeah, that's what my name was. That's what the freight they brought me. My laser's still in Fort Worth, Texas.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
Huh.
Be here tomorrow, they said.
Okay. Yeah, it's halfway there, I guess, or
Oh,
close.
yeah.
So,
Hey,
Where
it's
are you
okay.
at, Steve?
Huh?
Steve, where are you at?
I'm in Marion, Arkansas.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna say I'm in Fort Worth, so that'd be close if it were me, but didn't know where you were.
Yeah. I got a notification last week and I tracked it and it went all over the world. It came out of California, two places, went to Memphis, is where it should have came to, then it went to Fort Worth, and then it's supposed to have been with me this morning. And when the guy called and said I'm backing in, I opened the door. It wasn't no laser.
I
They
bet that was
called,
disappointing.
not really, it's okay. And then they called and found out where it was, and it was still sitting on the dock in Fort Worth, Texas.
Wow. Yeah, I wish we could make that better, but that's kind of
Yeah,
hard to do.
it is.
So,
I'm ready for it, but I'm not. You know what I mean?
yeah. So, yeah, we've started dealing with the camera stuff, and that's starting to be something. So I updated the thing. We can't get the 95s,
That's what I
and
heard.
the Thundercam. There we go. So now we've got 85s and 120s. So uh, not much difference. We just need to keep up with it because the lens calibration values are going to be different, which Lightburn will be populated with them, where it'll show up. I don't know if they're in there yet, though. So it's not really as big of a deal as it, is made out to be sometimes. But that's just the way it goes. I'm looking for one camera that'll work with all of the lasers. And the only way I can think of to do that, because on the smaller ones like the 24 and the 35, if you've got that wide of a field of view, you're only using just that much of that sensor. So it would have to be a high enough resolution. So when you zoom into the 24, you'd be able to get that resolution you need. And they've tested Lightburn with a 13 megapixel camera. So I'm going to look at getting the highest resolution one I can and sticking it on a 63 and sticking it on a 24. And if it'll work on those two, it'll work on all of them across the board. Then hopefully we can hammer it down. I don't think this Lightburn thing is going to be a continuing thing. It's because of the chip famine, but then I'd like to use the Lightburn cameras in our kits. But if it comes down to it, we'll have to go out and find a solution on our own again. But that's kind of way we're looking on that. So
I've got a 110 on my Nova 63.
mhm.
It covers every bit of the bed that it can
Yeah,
because
it
of
can't,
the size of
the
the bed.
hinge line.
The
Hmm.
hinge line is what blocks it, but
Right.
everything else is pretty decent.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
problem is that lid's so big and there's so much movement that when you raise and lower the lid, it gets out of alignment a little bit.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Now you can, instead of, shooting those projections again and doing the crosshairs, you can go into the scale and shift functions right there in the preview window, in the camera control, and actually walk your overlay back to where it needs to be, and,
I
and
didn't
instead of doing a full calibration.
I'll have to try that.
Yeah, there's a little place there where you can adjust the scale and you can adjust the X and Y shift. So what I do is I draw a circle. I'll just vector a circle, take the overlay, and then if it doesn't match, I'll just adjust the overlay until it matches my original art and hit save and I'm done.
And that's going to be in the camera setup.
That's in the, oops, I think I've got it pulled up here. Let's see. I forgot I'm still sharing my screen on yeah. So if I update the overlay right there, and let's say I just draw a circle right here and then go ahead and output it, and then it's off, I can change my width and shift and stuff right here until it matches. So you can change your height and your shift for X and Y. And you just manipulate it until your circles match, and then you're lined up again.
Awesome. I didn't ever realize that.
So that's what's happening with the cameras. Let's see, looking to see if we got anybody else on here. If anybody has any questions, like I say, just jump in anytime. So, oh, okay, cool. We've got Grant, Rebecca, and Cheyenne on here. So that's who Conference Room is. So they're checking us out today. So that's cool.
Hey, Brian, I met them last week.
Yeah.
I went to Texas last weekend for my cousin.
Okay.
I swung by there and met them. Super nice people.
All right. Don't listen to anything they said about me.
Me either.
It was all good. It was all good.
So
Rebecca hates me.
Brian, are you saying half of it's lying, the rest ain't true?
Yeah.
Exactly. So there's something else that's going on. If nobody has anything, we got an email from someone in the laser community. I'm not going to say who, about that crash course on photos that we did, that video that Grant and I were the pupils, and Chris did a great job, teaching. But there's some inherent things that go on with the laser that may be overlooked. And I have this person that's going to help actually show, because, when people talk about doing photos and they talk about the lens, the tube being 130 watt, can you do a photo? And then you talk about, well, you just compensate with speed, for that higher ionization threshold. But when you do that, you want to make dots when you're doing photos, and the faster that gantry travels, if you're doing 1,000 millimeters per second, if your tube can't fire fast enough, you're going to get lines instead of dots, which makes your photo useless because it's not dots anymore. And those are the things that I need to look at deeper, so that I have a better understanding of how the laser beam performs, the beam signature, when things like focus and speed start affecting it, so that we can dial in the pictures. Because without knowing our spot size and how your beam reacts and at what speeds, you're not going to be losing your pulses, that's critical to knowing how to set the image up. So that's the stuff we're going to take a deep dive into. He's pulled me down the rabbit hole with him, so I can learn this stuff.
What about the backlash? That's supposed to help correct for that stuff.
Well, it does, but this is different. This is the light actually changing, shapes because of the speed and the mirrors moving in the gantry. It's not really about mechanical backlash. It's just the way, you know what I mean? Like, you can take an LED light and swing it across your face real fast and you see a line. I mean, that's what happens. Your dots start turning into teardrops or semicolons, if you go too fast. And that's the things we're going to delve into, is how the DC excited tube plays with, the pulse width modulation and how it's modulated and how the speed affects, the output. So
just need to make a switch to solid state. Well,
and he also said that RF tubes are overrated. He said he could do better with a DC tube. They last longer and that kind of thing, but he said there's a lot of smoke and mirrors that are in front of the RF tubes with proprietary software, that doctor up the images, but it's really not rocket science. So I'm going to delve into that stuff too, because, I've got RF to play with too. So I'm going to follow along with him.
Well, they're just supposed to be able to fire much faster or at a higher rate. There's really the only benefit to it. It's still a CO2 laser per se.
Yeah. Well, the other benefit is you don't have those tantalum electrodes in there, getting
True.
all that metal deposited in there and then making your gases go bad. That's the primary reason, especially when you overdrive them, why they
Yep.
fail so fast is because it eats up those electrodes and spits it out all over the inside of the pumping chamber. And then the RF tube doesn't have 30,000 volt arc running through it. It's RF modulated, so there's no arc at all. So there's no electrodes to burn away. So that's why they last 10 years. It's also why they cost 10 times as much. At the end of the day, you're paying the same. If you buy one $10,000 tube or, $10,000 tubes, what's the difference?
Yeah.
But anyway, that's some of the other things that we're going to be looking at. And I'm going to make a case, a white paper on that and publish it when it's done. So that's what I've got going on.
I got a light burn question if anybody
Sure.
wants to talk light burn. When you put a word in light burn and say I want to, stretch and skew it, but not curve it, but like I want to take the bottom and say move, make it so instead of it's square, start making the bottom comes out. That kind of, can I do that in light burn at all? I have not found a way to do it in light burn.
That's your shaping tools.
Yeah, but I don't know. You may have to convert it to a path first and then drag it.
Yeah.
Because as long as it's still a piece of text and needs to remain editable, I don't think you have that kind of control over it. I think once you get the text.
I tried converting it to path, but then basically you're in the node editing and you can't just stretch the bottom out where it would smooth.
I gotcha. I see what you're saying. Change the perspective.
Yeah.
Drag. Yeah.
Are you just using Lightburn, or are you using any other software?
Well, I can do it in Affinity Designer, but I've only done it once and it took me forever to get there. So I was just wondering if I could do it in Lightburn.
I'm not positive if that's doable. I haven't done it before, so I can't say definitively whether it can or can't.
Yeah, I don't know either. Let me see.
You can attach that and align it to a curve.
What's that?
I said you can attach that and align it to a curve.
Yeah, but he's trying to give it perspective, not actually curve it.
Right.
He's trying to give it a depth perspective, but it's not. Let's see here.
Yeah, kind of like doing something. I mean, something simple would be like the Star Wars words, the way they just kind of dive in. But that's not what I'm looking for. But that's. I did one design where they wanted the words, basically the word, and then the letters were real small up here, but then they kind of curved around, but the letters stayed straight. You follow what I'm saying? And that's what I had to do on Affinity Designer. It took me a while to get there, but I got there on Affinity Designer.
I know in Corel you can do that. But
yeah, I'm playing with it just to see.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can figure out myself.
Yeah, I tried like going into node editing and then basically highlighting the whole bottom and then pulling it out, but then it just makes like a sharp line, which is what you're shaking your head. You're doing it now, I think.
Yeah.
I was having a real bad problem with it. I don't know how in the heck I could do it.
I'm not. I can't get it to do it either.
So
that may be
one of my
externally.
Yeah, one of my reasons, I remember I was talking about the whole cup thing and putting them words on that bent shape, that little transition area. So I did it, and it looked pretty dang good. But the words do, as that word kind of comes down into the smaller part, the word will warp a little bit. So that's what I want to get to. I want to know, like, I can be able to stretch the bottom of the word, say, 18%, whatever, to compensate for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. You may have to do that externally.
Yeah. Okay. You guys aren't getting any feedback from behind me or nothing, are you?
What did you say? I couldn't hear you over the laser.
Are you getting feedback? 'Cause I'll mute it.
No.
Okay.
Are those noise canceling? I found I can stand right next to mine with my chiller blowing and nobody can hear it on this thing. So
Yeah, that's what these are. Yeah, these are pretty awesome.
some of the low end is sacrificed with this one I've got now. I'd like a lot of more bass in it, but it's not. I can adjust it through OBS, but I'm not running through that right now, so it may sound a little tinny. So,
Nope, sounds like you.
well, I guess I'll take that as a compliment. Well, I don't really have anything else, man. This is kind of a Q&A, and I never really come up with. I already
Glenn's
talked
got
about
me
cameras and
going
photos.
here.
Oh, you still trying to come up with how to do that in Lightburn?
I don't give up easily.
Yeah, go ahead,
I
Ron.
tried and tried. So
I got to move my 24 from my garage into the shop I'm in now, and got to go across lawn and turn it on end to come in the door. Can it go on a dolly, and if so, which end should go down?
Honestly,
On the end that doesn't have the tube sticking out of it.
Yeah.
Go on the front.
No, the side opposite the side opposite the tube.
Okay, I know what you're saying.
Where you have your tube extension, you want to. I dolly, like when I did mine, I taped the door shut so it wouldn't go flying open, or bungee cord or whatever, and then you lay it on its side, and then dolly it from the side. I think I did it from the top, because if you do it from the bottom, you got those two fans. You got to worry about breaking them fans.
Okay.
If the machine is secured and the gantry is not flying around in there loose, as long as the gantry is, the head and everything is secured in there, supposedly with the way it comes with the wire ties, just so that none of that moves around, it honestly doesn't matter what orientation the laser goes in. I mean, it won't, you know what I mean? As long as everything's secure in there, there's nothing rolling around or falling or loose. It really doesn't matter the orientation.
Okay.
That's what I meant.
If you drop it, it'll break either way. So, it doesn't matter which way. So
thanks for the encouragement.
No, they're pretty tough. They're pretty tough. So.
All right, thanks.
Sure. All right. Awkward silence.
I'm focusing.
He's trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at it too, but I've pretty much given up. So.
Well, Jason, while you're searching for all that, why don't you find the nesting feature in Lightburn for me?
The what?
The nesting feature.
Yeah,
that's
been requested a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's hesitant to put that in there, I think, because it would really add a lot of bloat to that software. But I know it's been requested. That would be neat.
For those people that are, I know my camera won't reach quite all the way around, but for those people that wonder if the cameras are worth it, can you see that? Shoot. Let me see. See if I can get a better view. Can you see it now? No, not really. It's real angled, but all those are business cards that I'm putting on a sheet that had all kinds of cutouts on it, and I'm able to manipulate and use every single piece of that wood,
use up
which
all
is
your
pretty
scrap.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah, they're handy. Well, some people swear by them, and some people don't ever use it. So I guess it's just all what you're into and what you're doing. So I find it very helpful if you do a lot of one-off stuff. If you're doing production stuff in the same thing every day, it may not be that beneficial once you get set up, with jigs and have your reference points and all of that stuff. But
well, it doesn't do anything for my rotary, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't trust it with the rotary either. That's not.
Yeah, I'd rather just yeah.
I have.
There you go. I got another. Go ahead.
Sure. Go ahead.
I said I have an issue with my camera being accurate. It's like it's a major outline. The image is real small compared to what it actually is when you look at the picture versus what it actually lasered.
When you did the alignment, did you have whatever the sample material you were going to output that test target on? Was that autofocused first? And are you using autofocus with the camera?
Yes.
Okay.
And I've gone through the calibrations, 3 or 4 different times, and it doesn't seem to help that.
I guess you might want to submit a support ticket and maybe some screenshots of what you're seeing,
Okay.
and we can help diagnose that. You can just email support@thunderlaserusa.com, and we'll have a look at it. And if we need to remote in, we can do that, because I don't have a real clear picture of. Are you saying it's just out of scale?
Yes, majorly out of scale.
Okay, and technically, if you do the alignment procedure with the material autofocused, and all of the material you're working with is always autofocused, it should be dead on. The only thing that affects scale, at least as far as the camera knows, is the distance from the lens to the material. So if that never changes, your alignment will never change. So you're using it with the lid up, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, we probably need to get on a support ticket for that and let us have a look and dig in there and see what's going on with you.
Okay, I did take a screenshot of it so I could share that on the page also.
Okay. Sure. That'd be
Thanks.
perfect.
Okay, thanks.
I'm gonna go look at the help desk real quick.
I don't have my laser yet, but just based off of the question on the camera that she was asking, I'm wondering, is that you do have to align it every time you put a new piece of material in?
No, the way our autofocus system works is it always detects the top of the substrate. So once you set your alignment up and you're using that in conjunction with the autofocus, it should never change, no matter what thickness material you put in.
Okay, good to know.
And actually, that's what causes them to go out of scale. If you manually focus, for instance, if the material is not the same distance as it was when it was aligned, that's how it actually gets out of scale. So that's why I like our autofocus system, because it does measure the top of the material, no matter what the thickness is. So it plays well with the camera.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure. Oh, Jason, I got a question.
I got an answer.
I broke the front foot on my low roller. Could you send me one? I'll pay for it. I broke it. I dropped it. So it's not a warranty thing.
Are there any in the spares?
No, that's the
No?
only thing that wasn't in there.
Oh, awesome.
So I just need one. Like I said, I'll work it out with you. But I just figured I would talk about it since it came up, because otherwise I would forget.
Yeah, just yeah. I'll get one to you.
I'll shoot you a message.
Yeah, shoot me a message, that way I have it.
Yeah, and I'll learn not to drop things. Hopefully.
Yeah.
So everything else is okay though.
Well, that's good.
Looks like someone else just joined. Hopefully they'll have a question for us.
Huh.
There you go. I got one that's probably been asked a million times, and I'm probably over cleaning my machine. How
Okay.
often should I clean it? So I know that's a vague question. So I ran about 60 cups, 70 or so business cards, a couple cutting boards and everything in the last day and a half, and I haven't cleaned it yet. Am I getting where I should be
I would say
stopping
if
right now and cleaning it?
if the mirrors are clean, the problem is, and maybe Brian knows, that I've seen with people that clean them too much or use different chemicals, is you'll wear the coating off of the mirrors, which could affect their performance in some degree, depending on what you're using, or if it's abrasive or anything like that. I personally, I check the mirrors. If the mirrors are clean, I leave it alone. Wipe down the rails once in a while to make sure there's no build up on those. But
yeah, definitely keep the rails clean, because if you get a little chunk of wood on there and it rides across there, you may get a little jump in your artwork. I mean, but yeah, I check my optics pretty frequently, but I have to be honest, as full as I've had this machine 2 years, of course I don't run it a lot, and I've vacuumed it out the first time like last week.
Yeah.
To get all the stuff out that I couldn't get with the broom, in the bottom. So I pay more attention to, the optics and then the gantry, and then lube your lead screws every 6 months so your
Yep.
Z table doesn't bind up. Because that's
The what? The what now?
the
The
lead
lead
screws, the
screws
screws on the Z table. There's one in each corner.
or the ball screws.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
keep those screws lubricated so it doesn't bind up. If those things bind up on you, it's not fun.
Yeah, trying to align it. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, just keep your optics clean.
yeah. And there is a
I just use like a it's the non-ammonia kind of Windex cleaner stuff. It's not really a harsh chemical.
mhm.
And just
I've been
wipe them.
using I just straight alcohol.
Yeah.
What I've been using on it.
Acetone, from what somebody asked that question in somewhere, and I think I looked up a little bit about it. I looked up, 2,6, what their best practices are for cleaning, maintaining zinc selenide optics, and also a couple other companies. And most of them use reagent grade acetone.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So,
I
yeah, the
would have
less
never
water
thought.
content of whatever it is, the better, so.
Yeah.
Because that is porous. That crystal that's crazy. I thought it was more like glass, but it's nothing like glass. It's some odd stuff.
Hmm.
But and then we got that PM schedule on the site, and it gives you a weekly, monthly, and daily kind of check things like bullet points as a guide. I'm sure everyone follows that to a T,
I just make
including
sure it goes
myself.
to home when it's supposed to, and it puts a mark on whatever I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
No. That's the
Okay,
good thing about the rail system on this is it's not hard to keep clean either.
Right. Just
'Cause
dust it off.
some of them have the self lubricated like the linear gut or what are those called? The
The
sled
linear rails.
the
Yeah.
linear rails that have the ball bearings, the slide tracks. You got to grease them and all that. You have a lot of chances of getting a bunch of debris and stuff up in those, but
Yeah, I like that system. I think we had a question,
I think
so
Jenner.
I'm gonna give you the floor. Sorry.
that's okay. I have another question about the autofocus. We were talking about that just a second ago. Is
Okay.
there an easier way to get to the autofocus without having to go menu and then down arrow 7 times to get to the autofocus button?
You can do it right in the move panel in Lightburn, and it's just one button, one click.
Okay, I need to find that then. Okay, because I've been going through
Yeah,
on.
and another helpful tip is once you have it focused, you don't have to leave it back there in the path of the beam. You can bring it up close where you can work on it, so you don't have to lean back on some of those machines. That's kind of a stretch to go back there and work in the rear third of the machine just so it'll stay in the autofocus path. So,
Have you talked to them yet about that?
well, it's supposed to be that way because that's normally where the head is, and they want to make sure that whatever material's back there near the head is going to be sensed. So, I mean, yeah.
It's
So
sounds good, but not in theory, but not in
if you,
practice.
yeah, well, if you have it in the front and you've got an urn sitting in the very back left corner that you forgot about or you didn't know and you turned your laser on, it's not going to see it and it's going to crash your head all to pieces.
Well, it's
So,
like if you have that same urn up front and you have the head up front and then it auto homes, I mean, it don't know it's there either. So I mean,
well, if it homes, it will be in the back. It won't be in the front. So
well, no, if it's in front of the urn per se,
well,
and
that's
you
true.
shut it down and you go to turn it on, it's going to auto home and hit it because it's not going to know it's there. So that's kind of like I
Yeah,
think
I get it.
I think that's
Well,
a bad excuse for where they're positioning it. I think it should be up front or in the middle, especially on the bigger machines.
yeah, well, it ain't. So, that's the way that works. But I don't know. I kind of like it because the other thing is you don't want it back there because if it's up front and you want to work up front, you can't put your rotary up there because your rotary is going to be in the way. If it's in the back, you work on your rotary up front. If the sensor's toward the first third or the middle, you have to set your rotary on either side of it so the tower doesn't block it, or you're not even going to be able to move your Z table.
I
So
just
there's
use.
that kind of
Well,
stuff.
I won't say that.
Yeah.
I don't want people to get the wrong idea.
So. Let's see. Has anybody else got any questions? We almost made it halfway through. And I
I
burned through
think
my
last
backup
week I got in.
document.
You guys were pretty short last week too, weren't you?
Yeah. I mean, and if this is primarily supposed to be a Q&A, so if there's no Q, we don't need to make up A's.
I think you just about went all the full hour last week. You
Yeah.
started talking about that the new fiber,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, that took a little bit.
I have a question.
Sure.
I ordered the 35 Nova,
Okay.
and they say you can take it apart in 2 sections to get it through the doorways. We
Correct.
have very small doorways. Can you take it apart in 3 sections?
No,
You
but
can.
if you take enough things off, it will go about through a 27.5-inch opening. If you take a few other things like the hinges and the alarm mount there and the emergency stop, there's a few items that stick up, and you can take those off relatively easily or get them to be recessed, and you can get it through about a 27.5-inch opening.
Okay, I got almost 30, so I think that'll work. Because we
think you
were
could-
kind of worried about it.
Sure. Yeah, they've designed them to go through a standard doorway, and then if you need a little extra room, we can always take a few things off to help facilitate that.
Well, I guess we watched the video what Thunder has about doing it, and all they did is take the base off and then took it in an elevator shaft. There
Right.
wasn't much taken apart there.
Sure, and that is representative of what you would do to get it through a 30-inch doorway. Now, if you had a 28-inch doorway, that's where you'd have to start taking off handles and alarm buzzers and the things, some of the accessories that are on the outside of the machine. But if you have a 30-inch doorway, you should be able to just take the bottom half off and move it in 2 sections.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
Brad, earlier
Yes.
you were talking about the bullet point of the maintenance. Is that
Mhm.
in the files? Where exactly would I find that to make sure I am checking everything?
That is in the support site, and I lost. There we go. Let me kick the screen back on, and I'll run over quick. Let's see, portal, and it's on the cheat sheet. There's a link on the cheat sheet, but I think you can just type in PM in the search. Yeah, and there's preventative maintenance checklist. And then there's the daily is, of course, your lenses. Then they're saying weekly is your, reflector, the mirrors, and the laser combiner, and then general cleaning. And then the monthly is rails and laser beam path, which I've never adjusted my laser. I've never done an alignment on it ever. But it's in there just in case. But really checking your lens and making sure it's clean is the most important thing, because, and I hope I have it in here. I didn't put it in that part. But you can really damage your lens if you don't keep it super clean and keep it checked. But other than that, you got some maintenance to the chiller, like keeping the fans. There's some little filters on the sides, and you pop that loose and get the dust out of there, and check your water level and that kind of thing. But it's not very intensive.
Okay, I'll go out and look for it. Thank you.
I'll put a link to this in the chat. That way you'll have an easy access to it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Trying to see if there's anything else new. There's what I was talking about earlier about the famous what happened to my lens. That right there starts off as a haze. That looks like it burned all the way through. Wow.
Holy smokes.
That's
Water
impressive.
will do it.
That's
or
impressive.
dirt.
Yeah. condensation is absolutely just as detrimental. Yeah, sure is.
Then dirt too. That stuff it'll weld it to the
Hmm.
like if you get dirt down in the top, it'll actually weld the dirt to the lens. I've had that
Yeah.
happen before.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it starts getting hot, and then that stuff sticks to it more, which makes it
Yep.
get hotter, and it's just thermal runaway.
Yep.
And then that's when they crack all to pieces.
I had one shatter on me. It was one of the mirrors. It wasn't the focus lens. One of the mirrors got dirt or something on it. I didn't catch it, and it kept, I guess, festering, and it got to the point it just shattered. Like there was a loud pop, and then the beam went dead. I'm like, okay, that's great. And then found out that it was the number one lens. Got some stuff back there on it. It was all covered some black something.
Yeah.
Not sure what it was, but.
And the beam combiners are often overlooked. Those optics should be changed inspected and cleaned every once in a while. And that is one thing I'll show you, just in case anybody ever takes one apart. The lens is a two-way lens, and it has to be oriented the proper direction. And typically, let me see, am I sharing? Where'd my thing go? Here we go. I've got my window hidden there. There it goes. See, should be a little arrow on the edge of the lens that shows you the direction of the beam. So you don't want to get that backwards, or bad things can happen. So if you're ever maintaining your beam combiner, just make sure you keep that in mind. There we go. Well, does anybody else have anything else? If not, I could just knock off of here a little bit early because I've got some air assist kits I need to put together. So
Go get busy. There's people waiting on them.
There's another guy that's making them. Have you seen that guy?
Oh yeah.
I've seen somebody online that I thought they were working for you guys.
Well, they asked if they could, and in the interest of keeping more people in those things, we said he could, because we didn't do that because we want to get in the laser parts business. That's not at all what it's about. It's actually a more trouble for us putting the kits together, but we try to do it for convenience. But I can't let that get in the way of the core functions over here, so that's why they're always way behind. But I'm going to get a couple of them together and get them on the site here by the end of this week. So
that's how it starts.
Yeah. So that's the way it goes. And I'm going to record it and document it. I think I've already said that before. I just haven't gotten around to doing it yet, but it's happening next day or so. That way I'll put that up. So if you do want to assemble it yourself and get the parts, you'll have a real good step-by-step on how we assemble ours. So.
Yeah, I'm going to be moving my air compressor to an outside building and just running the line inside. So I'm going to add some dryers and separators out along the way.
Right.
Just got to get around to do it.
Water bad.
I've got one of those Cobalt QuietTech compressors, but when it kicks on, I mean, it's still more noise than you want to deal with.
Sure. Yeah, I've heard a bunch of people with those, and it seems they have good luck out of them. Don't you have one of those, Jason? The QuietTech?
Well, I got the QuietTech 26 in my other shop, and then I got a little portable one here in the new shop. But it's let me see what that is.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, it's a QuietTech. It's a 4.3 gallon, 150 max psi.
There's quite a bit of buzz about those compressors. You always see the Cali Air, which they're nothing special. I've got one. I'm not knocking it. It is what it is.
Can you hear this?
Just barely.
Yeah, it's not very loud at all.
Yeah, just barely. But I've heard those are good. Now, Gary Wyant tried one of those Ford Ultra Quiets one time, and he said it lasted about a month. So I haven't seen those pop up, because that was one of the ones that was mentioned quite a bit on the laser forums for a bit. was that Ford, but I haven't seen anybody else with one of those yet.
Well, the thing is, you can get one of these, and then you can get yourself like a 20-gallon tank,
Mhm.
and that'll increase your well,
Give you a lot more
won't
buffer.
it will give you more, yeah.
It'll equalize it too, make it, yeah.
Yeah, so you could actually have more volume instead of the pump running all the time.
Yeah.
It'll hold more volume, give you a little bit more runtime out of it without having the compressor constantly running.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've got the 26 as well, and when I'm doing a large job with lots of cutting, it'll kick on quite frequently. But when I move it out to my shed, because I'm in the garage, when I move it out to the shed, which is like 5 feet from my house, I've got a old compressor out there that's like a 50-gallon tank that
You
the
gonna
motor,
plumb that in?
Piggyback into that.
but I can use the tank.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have a 26 that I can run, or I have run for 6 to 8 hours, like constant, on a big cut job on a huge laser, and I never had problems. Now condensation, on the other hand, that becomes an issue, and you got to make sure you keep the traps clean and drained. But that 26, I had it for a year, and then it it went out because of me, because I hooked it up to a remote start. So when I was ready, I'd hit the button and it would kick on. Well,
Mhm.
the start portion wasn't. It was rated for 15 amps, and it wasn't rated for the draw that the compressor put on it. So basically, it short cycled the compressor a couple of times, and it ended up frying the motor. But luckily they replaced it. I just took
Wow.
it back to Lowe's, and they
Yeah.
had the return authorization, and that was it.
Yeah.
But
Same thing will happen on a generator if you leave it on that thing where it idles and you're
yep,
using a saw like that. It'll burn your motors out that way too,
yep.
because it doesn't have that enough initial current to get going.
And especially when you start short cycling like that, then it really puts a
Yeah.
load on it. And that's what, like I said,
Yeah.
that's what killed it.
Yeah.
But
If it ever kicked
that was
on
my
once and
fault.
stayed on, it'd be all right. It wouldn't be as
Yeah,
bad. It'd probably overheat that circuit a little bit. It'd still
yeah.
give it what it needed. But yeah, that starting's bad on them.
But like I said, I like with the rotaries. I used to obviously make them of acrylic a while back, and I did all my cutting on a laser, so it would sit there and cut for hours. And like I said, it lasted me a good year, not a problem in the world, except for the
Mm-hmm.
condensation. But obviously that's going to happen with any compressor.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm a fan.
Yeah. Cool.
What kind of load do you put on the compressor?
What do you mean?
What's the pound you run it at?
Oh,
Well,
our
I keep.
systems. Oh, go ahead,
Oh, go
Jason.
ahead. Oh, I was say I keep mine at about 60 to 80. And then on the Thunder, I'll control it with the valve. So that way, if it's kicking on, I'm usually using as much air as it can pump out, which is usually about 70, 65, 70 if it's cutting. I don't think with the restrictions it can get much higher than that, but
Yeah. Well, the actual restriction, the recommendation now is 40. It was 80, and then they went to 50, and it's 40. So
okay.
that's what they're recommending on the machines now because of the seat, the
Yeah.
needle and seat in that air solenoid. So but if you need a little more, it's like I say, kick that thing up, and run with it, and then just turn it back down when you're done. If you're trying to cut something, if you need to cut a 2x4, kick it up a
Yeah,
little if you need to.
I've noticed my valves whistle
Yeah.
now because I've basically blown them out.
Yeah.
When they shut off, but when they're open, they flutter and they cause it to make a humming or whistling sound.
Mm-hmm.
But
So,
they still work. But like we were talking about
Do you
the
have
last time, you could bypass it.
yeah.
do you have a water separator in the line?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I have actually two on mine. One, I recommend the auto drain.
That's what I got this time for these
So
kits.
that way, at the like at my other shop, I have an auto drain at the compressor, and then I also have a manual drain at the station where the air comes in for my lasers. Um, that way, if the auto drain doesn't work, you can catch it by looking at the ones by the laser. You'll get water buildup in C, and then which you're gonna get a little bit anyways, but just a secondary precaution because it's cheap insurance.
And I just added this article that I pulled up for the air compressor guidelines to the chat also. But we've got documentation on exactly what you need. All the specifications are here. Everything you need to put a kit together or get one. So there's quite a bit of documentation that'll help.
Are you using auto or manual drains on those?
Whatever I can get. These right here is semi-auto. They got
Yeah.
the springs in them, and after they get low enough, they'll finally kick. And the ones I got this time are auto drain, and they've got a place for a piece of that tubing.
Yep.
Those would be good to put inside the laser and just drill a hole and put a grommet. Just put your tube where it runs out on the ground if you want, as long as it doesn't condense and get up in the laser. But yeah, whatever I can get.
I've done it where I told you last time. Put a top of a bottle, drill a hole, 2 holes.
Yeah.
Put the inlet line and then put an outlet line. That way it blows and discharges in there, and the water can't come back out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So.
Thank you for the info.
Sure, absolutely.
No problem.
I need to work on that some more. This is kind of going back to what you were talking about before. I haven't gotten much of this done yet. But you were we were talking about bypassing one of the solenoids, for the high air or whatever, and the valves and stuff. That's kind of what I'm looking at here for the guys with the Mini 60. I think I figured out a way to make theirs dual stage by running their stock pump direct and then having the external on another just another line. So that's something else that I'm checking out if I get time to mess with it.
I'd be interested in doing with mine is having the stock for the low end for engraving and then having the external compressor for the high stuff.
Yeah, yours is a dual stage, right?
No, mine's before.
Okay. You got
mine's before y'all came up with that neat little toy.
Yeah, so you could put a Y technically in its simplest. You need a check valve and a Y, and you could run your stock pump and then just Y off and then have your external compressor connected also through one relay and actually have it control. Well, you could just run the stock air to it. Now you'd have to be able to switch. You'd need 2 relays. You'd need another relay because, you don't have any in yours. I don't think your air is regulated with a relay at all.
No.
Okay, so you'd need 2 relays, one to switch between low and high and then just tie them in, just wire them together. Run your stock pump to the low side relay and then run your external air to the high one. But you can buy those relays. You can get them on Amazon or something. I think they're like $6. They're not crazy. And I've got the wiring diagram. I mean, we've got that whole kit to retrofit. Have you seen that? But it has all that TL timer board and all that stuff with it that does you can make your exhaust kick on and off. But let's see. So it comes with all of that, the TL timer, but you got to drill all the holes, and put the plate on there and mount the TL timer and then put the relays in and the solenoids, but it's got the whole kit. No one has put it in yet, not retro. I think one person ordered one and they sent it back. So
that looks a little more complicated than I'm used to.
Yeah. So
I was a locksmith for 25 years, and most of the keys I made were with a pair of vice grips and a hand file.
Yeah. But you could do the Ultimate Air Assist Cloud Rays version of the Ultimate Air Assist, and I think that might get you close too. And this is Russ Sadler's idea. and they make a kit. I'm not exactly sure how it works. It's made for the laser. It's made for lasers that don't have a controllable air assist. So there's that option too. Like I said, I'm not sure exactly how it would integrate with your particular version, but it's got everything you need right there. I'll put a link to this in the chat in case you want it.
I'll look at it.
So, oh, my compressor just kicked on. It made me jump a little bit. So, well, man, we're getting close to making it to 4.
We can always find rabbit holes to go down somehow.
We could. I don't think there's any more right at the moment.
Well, I guess since everybody was talking about air, is it
Mhm.
worth running the? I've seen that people are adding 2 gauges to the high and the low. Is it worth adding the 2 or just going with the 1?
Nah, just go with the 1. Because you're only going to use one at a time anyway. You'll be able to read them. Why? I don't understand why you need to look at both of them at the same time.
That's sort of where I was at, and we're just listening to people.
Yeah. And plus it adds, anytime you add more stuff, T's and adapters and check valves and all that to the air system, you're restricting it, so sometimes less is more. So you can only test them one at a time anyway. You can turn on high or low, but you can't do both, so I just use that one little pressure meter. The one that I've got is accurate down to 0.1, and it does a real good job. Now, something else to keep in mind, whenever you're writing down, if you do want to quantify your air pressures and you're writing that stuff down, take note of what size the orifice is in your nozzle. If you got a 2 millimeter orifice in your nozzle, like on that 2-inch stock one, you're going to get a lot more back pressure. You get a different reading, even though you don't change your air. If you change nozzles, like go to that 6 millimeter, when your back pressure drops out, you got a lot more flow, so your pressure will bottom out. So that, the outlet aperture matters on when you're monitoring that.
So you're saying just basically run off of what the 2-inch is?
No, I'm saying if you set your pressure to your 2-inch lens and you've got it at 20 psi, for instance, and you go put your 4-inch lens on there, it's liable to drop to 5, because you're flowing more air out that nozzle because it's got a bigger opening. So you're not able to build that amount of pressure, even though the air pressure setting hasn't changed.
So should you try to increase or just leave it alone?
Well, I don't know. That's just up to that. But all I'm saying is if you're going to quantify your measurements for air, you need to, you need to have separate ones for 2-inch, then you do 4-inch.
Okay, I see where you're going.
Then you do HR, because the HR lens has a different aperture in it. So they're all going to show different pressures, because they can output,
at the same
volumes
setting.
At the same setting. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I get where you're at now.
Yeah. So 20 psi on the 2-inch lens won't be the same as it is on the 4-inch lens. So, yeah.
Well, it'll eventually equal out, but your volume is going to be so much more than the pressure.
Well, it doesn't equal out, not unless.
Well, no, I'm not saying it's equal, but you're going to have, at the same pressure or the same setting, you're going to have more volume with less pressure. That's why it's going to drop off.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's not that you'll have nothing. I mean, I'm not saying that it's a problem. It's just that the gauge reads differently on each nozzle.
Yeah.
So you might want to make note of that, because if you just write down 12 psi and you don't say which nozzle it is, you may not ever find that effect again. You may say, why isn't this working? And it's because maybe you made that quantification, while you had the 2-inch nozzle on. Then you go back a week later and look at your notes, but you got the 4-inch nozzle now, and then all of a sudden it's not enough air and you got flames and you're wondering why. It might be a good idea just to keep track of the head that you're writing your settings down on.
All right, as long as we're talking about air, I've got another question for you. Brian, on one of the earlier webinars you did, you were talking about how you had taken a brake line and made a little air jig to kind of go a nozzle to go to the outside.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have air going in to cool your lens, or is
No.
just bypassing that?
It bypasses that. I don't know if you've seen on like Epilogue and ULS, they have an open lens system. They don't even have a nozzle. They've got basically one of those lines, just a hard line, just pointed down at there. And for engraving, that kind of works kind of decent. But the problem with that is when you're cutting, and these machines are, used a lot to cut, not having that conical nozzle and that direct axial flow right down the middle of that kerf is a problem. So that's why I was looking at an add-on, and as opposed to changing the whole head system out completely and not using the conical nozzle, because that's so critical when you're cutting to have that. But for engraving, you can achieve a different result, a better result sometimes by having an indirect airflow, like an air curtain, instead of it blowing right down into the engraving.
Have you seen my my secondary air collar that's on my site that I have for the other laser?
Is it on Rotoboss or on the?
Yeah, it's on the Rotary Attachments, rotary-attachments.com /shop. It's I call it the secondary air collar. Basically, what it does is there's a hole in it when it wraps around the nozzle, so it still feeds an amount of air through the nozzle just for cooling. But it's a skirt. It's like a pillow skirt, and it's got several holes, small holes around it that are jetted into the center. And then there's an opening on the back where it basically funnels all that air out. So it kind of scoops up the debris. It super cools it, so it doesn't have a chance to settle back down and actually mar your surface. Yeah, that's it right there. So you see the little holes down there around the bottom. And then the
bottom.
The bottom right there to the left. If you look to the left and up, see it and zoom in. You see the little holes at the bottom there? No, that's for the nozzle there. That hole there. Then you got the little hole over there by the. There you go, right there on the left. Yep, you got several of those around the perimeter.
I see them.
And I've been meaning to try to adapt something like that to Thunder. I just haven't had a chance because I can actually scale that down to fit that nozzle. And then that screw is just a locking screw to kind of attach it. But what it does is it allows some air to get into the nozzle, but it focuses most of the air through those holes. Like I said, that kind of creates like a little bit of a pillow or a cushion.
Right.
To
Have
keep
you seen
stuff.
this?
What's that?
That's a laminar flow that they made for a Trotec. Look at the difference. It's a laminar flow nozzle. I'll show you. This is not the best one. Let's see. That's an STL.
Yeah, mine does the same thing. It cleans up the edges, but not quite that compact.
Yeah, there you go. See, they've changed. Yeah, they did a little something different. See.
Okay.
Yeah,
they're shooting a beam directly down through the center of it.
Yeah.
And then controlling the air around it.
But look at the difference, man. That's with the stock Trotec nozzle, and that's with theirs.
Yeah.
Isn't that nuts?
Oh yeah.
So.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, matter of fact, will one of those slip right on one of our nozzles? Probably not close enough.
I just have to scale it down. And make it a little bit longer to reach the bottom of the nozzle.
Yeah, I'd be interested to check that out.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that too.
Yeah, I mean, it does the same thing as that laminar. It basically just disrupts the air.
Yeah,
to where it basically just I don't know. I made it as a kind of a gimmicky thing, and it actually worked. So it was so I was kind of pleasantly surprised. But
that's the way that works a lot of times.
I'll try to see if I can scale it down to the Thunderhead, because right now it's meant or what's used on the Boss lasers, but I'll see what I can do as far as getting that down, and then test it out and see how it does. But I have a video on YouTube that shows the difference with and without and everything. It's basically just like that picture you just showed,
Yeah,
where you got the soot and debris around it, and then the other one it's nearly gone.
sure. I'll check that
So,
out too.
Yeah.
But
and that's JER Custom Designs on YouTube.
okay.
But yeah, I'll do that and let you know what I come up with on that.
Yeah, I'd like to see that for sure. So, well, awesome, man. We talked about air long enough. We had enough hot air to get it almost to 4:00 my time. So I think we done good. Does anybody else have any last minute questions or comments or anything?
Nope.
Nope. I guess not. All right. Well,
Not
I
this
guess I'm
time.
gonna. What's that?
Not this time.
All right. I guess I'm gonna shut her down. I'm gonna go start working on some air kits.
Y'all have
So,
a good night.
all right. Take care,
Take
guys.
care.
See
See you
ya.
next week.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.